7:05 and the sun is just starting to come up. It's pitch black dark when we left our hotel at 6:20 to walk down here. We are headed out to Milford Sound.
Nice one. Who is ready for a big adventure? Yeah, I know.
Today there's not a
very
cloud.
enthusiastic. That's awesome. I like you already. So film stars on our left hand side. On the right hand side, this small hill we're just leaving behind called Deer Park Heights, and it is a film set. And it, once again, if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings, you might remember in the Two Towers, the second of the trilogy movies, there are lots of battle and fighting scenes, many of which were filmed at the top of Deer Park Heights. So if you do watch this Two Towers, the second of those movies, you'll see the snow-capped mountains of Mordor, the Remarkables, forming a backdrop to many of those battle and fighting scenes. And they also managed to somehow Photoshop Aurakiman Cook and New Zealand's highest mountain in there as well. In New Zealand, it's the longest lake in the country. It's 82 kilometres long from one end to the other. That's about 52 miles. Now the north end is fed by the Dart and Reese rivers. They have their sources at the glaciers in the Mount Aspiring National Park region, and they flow into the town Glenorchy at the very north end of the lake, introduced for recreational fishing. But commonly found in here, we do have the native long-finned eel. It's known to Maori as tuna. So here at the south end of the lake, the town of Kingston, population just over 200, many of whom commute between here and Queenstown for work every day. It's a pretty scenic commuting drive. But Kingston was once a much busier town, and all the steamships came down here to Kingston to transfer the passengers, freight, animals, gold and wool onto the Kingston Flyer steam train. On the opposite shore you can see the wharf where they moored those steamships. You can see the carriages and trucks at the Kingston Flyer and the sheds associated with it as well. Now Kingston's a really popular holiday destination. Lots of people have holiday homes down here, known as batches or cribs, and coming down here to spend the weekend, even from Queenstown. There's really good boating and fishing in this part of the lake. Just before we get to Te Anau. Enjoy.
6 sheep for every person in New Zealand. Certainly a lot along here. Beautiful farmland. They raise sheep and cows and deer. This is this town of Tiranu. It mainly takes care of tourists who are going to Fiordland, Milford Sound, and mandatory that the bus drivers take a break. So from Queenstown to here is 2.5 hours, so it's time for them to take their legal half-hour break. There's probably a dozen buses in here, and most of the people are in here spending money and buying food. This is a major rest stop, bus driver rest, and people get off here and get on. Most of us are started in Queenstown and are going all the way to Milford Sound, but this is Te Anau.
It was carved out by glaciers the very same way as Queenstown's Lake Wakatipu, but 3 other glaciers formed in the mountains to the west. These glaciers pushed east, they carved out 3 other valleys, and when the water level rose in the Te Anau Basin as the glaciers melted at the end of the Ice Age, these 3 other valleys were flooded as well, creating New Zealand's only inland, landlocked or freshwater fjords. So way off to the left there, that valley coast is National Park in itself. 1/3 of New Zealand is looked after by the Department of Conservation as gazetted National Park region. The ocean.
14 fjords here.
And we're going to the northernmost of them. Now, in 1986 this area achieved World Heritage status, becoming the first of the national parks of Te Waipounamu World Heritage Area.
The first Lord of the Rings movie, 3 minutes in, this is known as the Misty Mountains. Heading out along the trail, see this lake. About 8 other bus loads of tourists. So this is the Mirror Lake. Very pretty. You really see the mirror effect here with the mountains in the back. Wow, this is a longer lake than I thought, but look at that reflection.
Over the main divide of New Zealand's Southern Alps. Any rain falling on this side flows west to the Tasman Sea. So we just crossed over the spine and the backbone of New Zealand's South Island. Track of mountains on the left side of the valley called the Darren Mountains. So as you can see, beech forest right down the mountainsides and across the valley floor. So from here to Milford Sound we got... You can see some glaciers, a couple of bits of snow as well. And the mountain immediately right of us is called Mount Little. And the next mountain range, next mountain along here is called Mount Christina, which is the second highest mountain in Fiordland. And it's a river flowing, it's called the Hollyford River. We'll see it ourselves in just a few moments. Now next to the river there is a gravel track which leads to Guns Camp, the start of the Hollyford track. As you can see, crystal clear water. You can see right down to the rocks and pebbles on the riverbed, perfectly drinkable too. Although it is really clear, you can see a faint greenish blue colour in the water. The reason for that is fed by glaciers. We have glacial flour in the water of this river. Now we'll see the glaciers in a few minutes as we travel along. And as the glaciers, the big blocks of ice grind their way through the rocks in the mountains, they grind the rock up into tiny pieces called glacial flour or rock flour. These tiny crystals of rock, they're so small they stay suspended in the water. Now they don't fall to the bottom of creeks, lakes or rivers. So every tiny crystal of rock in this river every tiny drop of water in this river has a crystal of rock in it, which absorbs all colours of the colour spectrum with the exception of greens and blues, which are reflected back. You can see it quite clearly on the right hand side there. Glacial flour. Celsius, how do you feel now? Freezing cold. Real nice, fed by glaciers way up in the mountains there. As we leave Christie Falls behind, have a look to the left. I'll get pretty close to the mountainside here. You can see all the different plants that are growing here, the likes of mosses. Up through the roof, the forest is holding on directly above us, overhanging the rocks. Death and destruction during winter and spring, if not managed correctly. I'll tell you how they do that in a few minutes. We get a few different types of avalanche here in the Fiordland region. Coming up on the left, a side of a tree avalanche. So you can see the very bare face of rock just before the forest begins. One of the trees at the top fell over and took its neighbour with it, took its neighbour too. The entire forest ripped away from the mountainside like a strip of wallpaper. That's a tree avalanche site to our left hand side, tree slide. Over about 15 metres high up in the mountain, that's about 5 times the height of this coach. Now, it doesn't come along as one storm, it comes along as various fronts that affect us during the winter season here in this region. So it forms different layers in the snowpack. Tumbles from the mountaintop way up there. So look at how close it is to the road here. It shows just how dangerous it can be here on the Milford Road during the winter and springtime. There's an avalanche falling from way up where the glaciers are. Now we get some very unstable rock around here, and we're just about to pass by the red slip, and the orange colour on the rocks is called lichen. It's an organism that grows on bare rock. So
this is Monkey Creek. Here's the views we couldn't see on the bus. This is a very avalanche prone section of the road. Here's Monkey Creek. The water is clear enough to drink, and our bus driver said he's going to fill his water bottle. There's somebody else doing the same thing. A little bit of waterfall up there this late in the summer. Some back there too. Section of road we just came through, the most dangerous avalanche stretch of road in the world, and it's pretty obvious why.
Water you get from your tap, it's come from that valley up to our left hand side. Bit of snow melt, bit of glacier melt, some rainwater there too. No pollution, might be a bit of kia poo, bird poo, but never mind, that's extra protein, isn't it? Makes you feel healthier. But yeah, the water in my bottle is generally always from Monkey Creek. I got caught chatting there, so I didn't manage to fill up.